A very good morning, children. Well, in today's class of economic application, we're going to study about developed economy and the underdeveloped economy. It's a link lesson to what we studied in the last class. But in today's class, we shall make a distinction between developed economy and underdeveloped economy. Before that, let's make a bit of recapitulation on what we did in the last class. Well, in the last class, we studied about, especially we first talked about the classification of economy on the basis of level of development, where we discussed in detail what is developed economy and underdeveloped economy. Okay, and we also saw some characteristic features of a developed economy as well as underdeveloped economy. Okay, related to that, today what we are going to do is that we're going to make a distinction between developed economy and underdeveloped economy. Okay, so let's get started then. Alright, we're going to take various points. Okay, on the basis of various points, we're going to make a distinction between a developed and underdeveloped economy. Okay, first, now point number one, on the basis of per capita income, the differences in developed economy. What do we see? That the level of per capita income in developed nation or a developed economy is very high. Therefore, the standard of living, the standard of living of the people in developed economy is also very high. Whereas if you see in underdeveloped economy, the level of per capita income is very low. Hence, the standard of living is also very low in underdeveloped economy. So, point number two is that on the basis of incidence of poverty, we're going to make a difference. Alright. So, in developed economy, what do we see is that the incidence of poverty in developed economy is very low. Okay, whereas comparatively in underdeveloped economy, what we see, in underdeveloped economy, we notice there exists widespread poverty. You understood? So the level of poverty is very high in underdeveloped economy compared to developed economy. All right. Okay, so that's point number two. So on the basis of occupation, what we see is that in developed economies, what we see is that mostly what happened, industrial and service sector are dominant. That means, most of the people are engaged in occupations. Their main occupations in developed economy is related to industrial and service sector. Okay, so industrial and service sector is dominant in developed economy. All right. Whereas in underdeveloped economy, what we notice that agriculture is is the main occupation of people in underdeveloped economy. So you got it. Okay. So in developed economy, the main occupation of the people are concentrated in what? Industrial sector and service sector. Whereas in underdeveloped economy, what we see that agriculture is the main source of occupation. Okay, so that's the difference that we see between developed economy and underdeveloped economy on the basis of occupation. Next point. Then on the basis of technology, what is the difference between developed economy and underdeveloped economy then? Well, what do we see is that in developed economy, the technique of production, the technique that is adopted in the production is very, very, high and advanced. That is in developed economy. Okay, the method of production is also the method of production, or you can say the technique of production that they adopt in developed economy is very high and advanced. Okay, and mostly what we see is that in developed economy they adopt a capital intensive method. That means, what is capital intensive method? A method where more of the capital is utilized and less of the labor is utilized. That means more of the machine is utilized than the human labor. So this technique is utilized in what? Developed economy mostly. Alright. Whereas in underdeveloped economy or in developing economy, what do we see? That the technique of production is very, 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 very old, obsolete and outdated. And so this is, on the basis of, this is the, a difference on the basis of technique between developed economy and underdeveloped economy. All right. Then, what about the productivity level then? What is on the basis of productivity level? What do we see that in developed economies, what we notice that the productivity of labor is very high. Okay, that is in developed economy. But then in underdeveloped economy, it's just the opposite. What we notice that in underdeveloped economy, the productivity of labor is very low. Okay, all right. Now, then what about utilization of resources then? On the basis of that, what we see that in developed economy, resources, whether it is natural resources like land minerals, or physical resources like raw materials, or maybe human resources like manpower, whether it is natural resources or physical resources or human resources in developed economy, what do we see? That these resources are fully utilized. Okay, they are all, they are fruitfully and productively, they are utilized in developed nations or in developed economies. But in, underdeveloped economy, what do we see? That these resources, whether it is natural resources, physical resources, or, human resources, they are either underutilized or unutilized, not utilized properly. Understood? So on the basis of utilization of resources, so this is the difference that we notice in between a developed economy and underdeveloped economy. All right. Okay. Then population wise, what is the difference that we notice in developed economy and underdeveloped economy then? Well, developed economies are not, overpopulated. What do we see? That in developed economy, you do not have the problem of, overpopulation. It is not overpopulated. Okay, that means the rate of growth of population in developed nation is very low. All right. Okay. Whereas in underdeveloped economy, what we see that population is the main problem. All right. What we notice is that the developed economies are overpopulated. You understood? Overpopulated, and the growth rate of population is very, very high. Okay. That is in underdeveloped nations or underdeveloped economy. All right. So the difference is that in developed nation, what we see that there is no there's no problem of overpopulation. It is not overpopulated. All right. Whereas in underdeveloped nations or in underdeveloped economy, what we notice problem of population, high population growth, overpopulated. The growth rate of population is very high in underdeveloped nation or underdeveloped economy. All right. Okay. So let's see the next point. What about the distribution of income then? Well, on the basis of this, what we notice is that in in developed economy, what we see is the gap between, the bridge between the rich and the poor is very narrow, very less. That means the gap between the rich and the poor is very low. You understood? But if you look at underdeveloped nations or in underdeveloped economy, what we notice is that the gap between, the bridge between the rich and the poor is very wide. That means the difference, the difference between haves and have not is very wide. That means the rich are very rich and the poor are very poor. Where? In underdeveloped economy. You understood? So what we notice is that as far as distribution of income is concerned, that in developed nation, the gap between the rich and the poor is very narrow, very low, whereas in the underdeveloped economy, the gap is very wide. Understood? And the gap is more. Okay, now let's look at the next point. What about on the basis of employment then? Between the developed nation and underdeveloped nation, rather developed economy and underdeveloped economy. On the basis of employment, what is the difference then? Well, what we notice is that in developed economy, there is no problem of unemployment. I'm talking about developed economies. Okay, in developed economies, there is no problem of unemployment. Okay, most of the people, I wouldn't say all the people, but most of the people are employed. Okay, if at all there exists some unemployment and all, then this unemployment problem may be temporary. okay, in developed economies. Understood? So most of the people are employed, and maybe there may be some unemployment problem, but that may be temporary, and that might that might be overcome in developed economies. But whereas in developing economies, what we see is that there exists a widespread unemployment problem. Okay, in developing nations or underdeveloped, that underdeveloped nation and developing nation means same. So in an underdeveloped economy or in a developing economy, what we see that there exists a widespread problem of unemployment. Okay, so unemployment problem in developing economies are chronic. Understood? So this is the difference on the basis of employment between developed economy and underdeveloped economy. Okay. Then let us see what about infrastructure. On the basis of infrastructure, what differences do we see between developed economy and underdeveloped economy then? Well, in developed economy, what we see is that the infrastructural facilities, the infrastructural facilities are quite, quite substantial, quite, say, sufficient. Okay, they are quite adequate in developed economy, but just opposite. But in underdeveloped or in developing economy, what do we see? That the infrastructure is inadequate, that is not so. Okay, here what we're going to see is the quality of human capital in developed economy and underdeveloped economy. What is the difference? We'll see that. Okay, so in developed economy, the quality of human capital is better than underdeveloped economy. That is what we see is that in developing economy, the literacy ratio is high. Okay, there is adequate availability of health and sanitation facilities, where in developed economies. Okay, whereas what we see in underdeveloped economy is that the quality of human capital is very poor, which means that there is low literacy ratio, okay, and inadequate health or sanitation facilities. Okay, so the quality of human capital is, you see there is a wide difference. Okay, the quality of human capital between developed economy and underdeveloped, there is a wide difference. Okay, the quality of human capital in developed economy is quite better, much better than underdeveloped economies. All right. Okay. So, well, these are some of the differences that we, made between developed economy and underdeveloped economies. All right. Okay. I think we're going to stop here for today. If you have any, queries related to developed economies and undeveloped economies, which we studied in the last class, also we studied this. We have just started this lesson in the last class. We just continued it. If you have any problem related to these topics, you can always WhatsApp me. As you know, my number 9562682669. If you have any queries, or if you have any doubts or if you have any problem, you can always WhatsApp me in this number. Okay, till then, stay connected and stay safe.